Hey everybody, welcome back to Auto Scholar with Mr. B. I'm Mr. B, and today we are replacing the water pump on this 2013 Lexus CT200h. However, the procedure is going to be the same for the third generation Prius. Now, I have my water pump here and my coolant. Each are going to fall into the OEM specified part and fluid for this vehicle. This is an ASIN water pump right here. I got this off of Amazon from the ASIN store, so I know it is legitimate. There's a lot of counterfeits out there and aftermarket parts that do not play well with the factory stuff that is on this car and the Generation 3 Prius. So make sure that you're getting a legitimate water pump, even if you have to go to the Toyota or Lexus dealership. So this is an ASIN pump. I'll leave the link for it down in my video description, so you can go ahead and snatch one of these up for yourself. They're around half price of what a dealership's gonna charge you, plus the channel also gets a small commission for that. So thank you for supporting the channel. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing you're want to do is get this piece off right here. Now you'll have these little clips right here where the little middle of them comes out like that. You just grab it with a screwdriver, pop that out. There's a really good chance you're going to break this because it's just old on these cars. So you may want to go ahead and order some before you do this job, just to make sure this doesn't rattle underneath the hood. So we're going to go ahead and take this cover plate off here. It's going to give us a little bit more access to the air box. So let me show you how the air box comes off. So to get this resonator out, what you're going to need to do is you have a clip here that just pops out. It's like the same clips over here. This just pops out. Loosen this hose up right here, get it kind of out of the way. Then you have a 10 millimeter right here, and a 10 millimeter right here, and then this little thing right here kind of clips to this. And you'll just pull this loose, and then all this should pull out, and you should be able to get all this out of the way, and the water pump will be underneath here. Okay, so here is where our water pump lives here, and I've got my light. I'm going to show you guys. There's 5 bolts to hold this on. There's 2 over here on this end, 1, 2, and then there's 2 on this end, and then there's 1 at the very bottom. And the 1 at the very bottom you can get from the top. Matter of fact, in the other video that I did on the Prius, I get it from the top, and I had a lot of people in the comments that were telling me it's easier to get it from the bottom. And while it's easier to get it through the bottom, you do have to do a little bit more work. So I'm going to do it from the bottom and show you guys how easy it is to get this bottom bolt off. But if you want to get it from the top, you may have to get a socket that's maybe a little bit different length, like a deep well or something like that, to get on here. But I've got my finger on this. It's really hard to show you here from the top. But what you want to do is go ahead and unplug this, and you have a plug right here. I don't know if I can do it one-handed, but we're going to try. There we go. And just check and make sure there's no corrosion there. You have 4 pins that go, active pins that are on this water pump here. And also the thermostat is back here in this water neck. If you want to change that as well, you can change it. It's kind of easy to do it right now versus when all this is buttoned back up. So these bolts right here, I believe are 2 different sizes. Let me just double check that. So the bolt sizes are the heads are going to be the same, but you do have 2 different length ones. This one right here that goes through the timing cover here against the shorter ones. The 3 on the right are going to be the shorter ones if you're looking at it this way. One on the bottom, of course, I'm going to show you how to get that one from the bottom. But let's go ahead and look at the bottom. We'll go ahead and take out that bottom bolt and then finish up the rest. Okay, so I went ahead and took the tire off, and you have 2 clips on this little panel right here that you will take off. And if you look behind here, and I already got my light back here, that right there is the bottom of the water pump, and right here is how you get to that 1 bolt. Again, you can get from it, you can get it from the top, but you know, if you're having a hard time getting it from the top, or you have big hands or something like that, you can just pop the wheel off. You don't even have to pop the wheel off. You can actually just turn the wheel all the way to the right, and that bolt will be right there. Now, what I do normally on these is I will go ahead and take the belly pan off, just like I would be doing any maintenance underneath the car. Go ahead and take the belly pan off. That way, when the coolant comes out, when I put the water pump out, it doesn't soak this insulating material in the belly pan with coolant and keep that coolant smell around longer than it has to be. So that again is optional. It's just a cleaner way of doing this job. And if you don't have time, then you can let it rock. Also, if you want to drain the entire coolant out of the vehicle, you can. But I just had a coolant flush about 20,000 miles ago, so I'm just going to go ahead and just remove the water pump and fill any coolant that spills. Okay, so I went ahead and took the bottom bolt off while I was down there and went ahead and dropped the pan and put a drip pan to go ahead and catch the coolant that comes out of here when we remove this pump. So the 4 bolts left are going to be 12 millimeters, and I normally get them with one of these little 3/8, excuse me, 1/4 inch drive sockets on a ratchet. The ones that go through the timing cover are kind of tight, but once you get them loose, they should just kind of come out with your fingers. And so I'm gonna go ahead and loosen these and then we'll go back to it. So as you take out the bolts, the water pump will start to leak. You'll lose a good majority of your coolant, but you go ahead and let that drain into the pan. Make sure you dispose of it properly. Don't leave it outside where wild animals or anything can get to it. So the back 2 bolts will be these longer bolts right here. And they'll kind of be a little bit difficult to take out by hand, but too easy to take out by ratchet. So kind of fought me the whole time, but that's fine. When we get done, this should just lift out. And you should be able to work this out with no huge problems. And again, this is what the pump looks like here. And you definitely want to make sure that you clean the gasket surface where this goes before we put the new one on. Okay, so there has been a rash of counterfeit parts with this water pump here. This is an ASIN water pump. It should say ASIN right here. Now, a lot of people get nervous when they see this scratched out. This used to say Toyota right here. And when ASIN sells these pumps, they have to scratch the Toyota out. When you buy this pump, which is the same pump from the dealership, this will say Toyota on it. So a lot of the counterfeit ones that you buy aftermarket will still say Toyota on it, but some don't. Okay, another dead giveaway on these is, this is a gray color right here. This plastic piece that kind of sandwiches in between the block and the water pump itself. And the counterfeit ones will normally be black. So if it's a silver metallic-y gray color, this is going to be an ASIN pump. Also, if your gasket comes separately from the water pump in a bag or a container or something like that, then that's ASIN's what they do, okay? If you buy a pump and it's already got the gasket installed on here, it may be a counterfeit. But with this, there's also a holographic sticker right here, the ASIN holographic sticker. And again, I have the link for the correct pump that is going to be in the description of this video that goes directly to ASIN's site on Amazon. You can get these off of eBay, and of course you can always get these from the dealership. You can't go wrong at the dealership. So when we put this back on, okay, now we have our 3 small bolts over here, the one that's kind of hard to get to, you have to get from the bottom. Okay, those are going to torque at 21 Newton meters, okay? And we have our 2 longer bolts that go through the timing cover, and they're going to torque down to 26 Newton meters, okay? So when we put this on, we're going to get these just kind of finger tight, get everything in there, and then we can get our torque wrench on there and torque these down properly, and plug it in, and then we'll go ahead and put it back together and start purging the air out of the system. All right, so remember, for the long bolts, 26 Newton meters, excuse me, and for the ones closest to us, 21, And just a small torque wrench like this will work. It does not have to be the fancy snap-on one, but I normally keep one of these around just for little things like this. Just make sure you get them torqued down properly. And I normally cross through a little bit. So I'll do the 3 bolts on the front, 1, 2, 3 in the middle, and then the 2 on the back. You just kind of rotate back and forth until you get the torque set properly on those. Then after you get that done, of course, we're going to plug this back up, get the belly pan back on, and then we're going to go ahead and fill it up with coolant and get it blend. Now, before I even put the air box back on or the front guard here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plug this water pump up, make sure it's plugged up. And I'm gonna go ahead and add my coolant water mix. You wanna do 50-50, and you wanna make sure that you're using the approved coolant for the car. I normally stick with the coolant that Toyota or Lexus sells. However, I wasn't able to get to the dealership today, so I'm going with this Zerex 50-50. It should be fine. So what I do is I go ahead and fill this up, and while I'm doing that, I'm checking to make sure that I'm not hearing any drips or leaks coming from this area. You may have pinched the gasket, you may have not tightened it correctly or something like that. And if your leak is going to show up, I want it to show up now, okay? Okay, so right now I'm just trying to see if there's any leaks. I don't see anything, I don't see anything crazy. So we're gonna go ahead and put it together and go through. We're going to crank the vehicle up, let the engine run, get up to operating temperature. You can put this in maintenance mode if you'd like to, but normally I just let it get up to operating temperature, and then I'm going to test drive the vehicle around for a while, maybe 5 miles or so, and come back and check the coolant. And also, if this is your car, if you're not doing this for a customer, you can check this, the day after to make sure that the level's still good. And also, if you have a vacuum bleeder, which is normally what I do, it's really good to use a vacuum bleeder on as well. So let me go ahead and get this thing buttoned up, and we'll crank it up and see what's going on. So we have it running. Right now, I've got the heat on, and what that's going to do is, while the engine's cold, if you activate the heat, it's going to make the engine stay on longer. That way you can go ahead and heat up the car. And so what we're doing is just we got the cap off, and we're monitoring the level, and we're just topping up when that level drops a little bit. When the thermostat opens, it should drop a lot more. But right now, we're just letting it run. After the engine runs a couple of cycles, you can go ahead and throw the cap on and drive and make sure that, the overheat light doesn't come on, nothing crazy is going on. And just top up the reservoir after that, and you should be good to go. Okay, so hopefully that helped you out with your water pump change. Now, why did I change the water pump on this car? Well, because it's got 130,000 miles on it, and I don't have any record of it being changed before. So for, $160, $170-ish is what I paid for this water pump. I can replace it, have peace of mind. And if you don't have any record of your water pump being replaced, or you're over a certain amount of miles. Now, some people say 100,000, somebody says 150. Toyota doesn't say anything at all. So it's really going to be dependent on who you talk to, and also just how you take care of your car. If you are, Johnny on the spot, then yeah, 100,000 miles or so, start thinking about replacing your water pump. These water pumps don't, when they fail, sometimes they just fail with no warning, and all of a sudden you've got a blown head gasket because your engine's overheated, or they can give codes. And I do, in my Prius video on the water pump, I do go into code diagnostics for these as well. So definitely check the description for that if you're getting a code for your water pump. And, just to make sure that I can get in this car and go anywhere I want to without having to worry about something breaking on the vehicle or possibly blowing my head gasket and causing all that extra grief for having the car down for a week, getting that done. So if you like what you saw, please, consider subscribing to the channel. I do have entire playlists on Toyota hybrid systems. So check that out while you're here. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, VK, Twitter. Look for Master Tech Mr. B or Auto Scholar Mr. B on those platforms. And hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time on Auto Scholar with Mr. B.